Hello everyone. So this is a teaser video about the latest book that I wrote with 3 of the plugins that go with it. So this one obviously is I Wish I Knew How to Program OpenGL Legacy 2.1 for the 64-bit with 64-bit executable with Xojo. So what this does is this brings the OpenGL surface, which I think is about 1.2 or version 1.3, brings it up to version 2.1. There's a lot of stuff that's been rewritten in the background to make the graphics smoother, faster, higher quality. It kind of is making the graphics card do what it's supposed to do. Don't get me wrong, OpenGL has tried really hard to make that work, and they've done a good job, and it's a great learning experience. But if you want to dig into OpenGL to actually have some serious good commercial grade applications, you're probably going to want to go down this route. So this book has 22 chapters. It's over 500 pages. I can't remember the exact amount, but it's over 500 pages. And it's got 80 example programs in it. So quite a few things to get used to about how things are generated, what's generated. There is so much information on OpenGL. It's fantastic. The good news with this is it tries to default most of the time to a frame rate of 60 frames per second. Because as I'll show you in some of the demos that I've got here, it can go way above that. But really, for you to have smooth looking graphics, 60 frames per second is usually about the average. Sure, you can get more, but this is pretty good for OpenGL. It really honestly is. On this one, OpenGL has to have one main thread. So all of these examples work on a main thread in one form or another. So the graphic horsepower is used better. I also have mouse and key movement. That's to do with the callbacks, so that, of course, great performance increase. And the upgraded the code from a previous OpenGL book from API 1 to API 2. So let's dig into just some of the examples that I've got here. So first one, this is going to be example 4 or 5. These are real examples that you can run from the code and the plugins that are there. So when I start it, comes up as a blank one. So I press the Start OpenGL button, and it opens up another third-party window. So we have the base window here, and we also have the option of having a separate window over top of it. And it also shows some of the information that's down here, like the NVIDIA graphics card, what the version is of the plugin. All of this type of information is available. So the other thing to really note is this is really smooth graphics. I don't know if you can see it from a YouTube video, but it's really good. There's no stuttering that I can physically see with it. The next one here I have is example 5.5, and this is to do with just drawing text on a screen. Now, although it sounds simple, OpenGL isn't really good at all with drawing text on a screen. So what this does is this just shows a simple pie chart. It's got 63% and it's got percentages all over the area. So the good news is you can actually have in real time updating as the at 60 frames per second, which is the usual, that you can update your text on the go right on the OpenGL itself. The next demo that I've got is 6.1. So I did mention that you can get really high frame rates, which are like silly high frame rates, and this is one example. So I'm going to start it, and on here it measures it out at about 5,700, 4,400, 6,000 frames per second. It's going so fast that I physically can't see it. It literally looks like a blur. So this really doesn't help you. This is why I have the default go back to 60 frames per second, so you can have some really nice looking graphics that are nice and sharp. The next one that I have here is example 10.3. And not only can we just draw regular, call them rough graphics, you can also draw some nice looking graphics, meaning you can use Blender. And now this monkey triangle, this is a standard model for demonstration purposes. It's kind of like a hello world for the modeling community. And when you open it, I built a object loader so you can make your model in Blender. You can download it as an object file, and in Xojo you can load up that object file and you can see this. So this is a monkey's face. It has a light, and you can see on the back side that there's dimness, meaning it's got shadows, and it's a lot brighter on the one side. So this one has shadows enabled and just one light source. You can have quite a few different light sources, but it makes it so that you can see the graphics in real time. So right now this one's moving at about 60 to 80 frames per second. So it's going pretty good. The next one that we've got is example 11.1. Example 11.1. This one is to do again with the Blender model, but you can also add fog. So you know what, it's a foggy day, it's been cool outside, so the moisture, and it kind of looks like you have clouds outside. Well, you can do that in real time with OpenGL. This is just one of the many things that it can do. So in here, you can still see it's that same model, but you can see that it's hazy, and the closer it is to us, the sharper the model becomes, and the further away it is, the more foggy or distant or diffuse the light is for you to be able to see. The next example is 12.1, and 12.1 is, I've been asked before about the ability to keep models moving in different directions, because everybody thinks that first thing that usually comes to mind is a first-person shooter. So you have one person and the entire thing is moving all at once. Well, although that's definitely possible, you can have it so that, like, on the right-hand side it's not moving, and on the left-hand side it's moving, and you can have many objects and they're moving in all of their different directions to whatever you'd like to do. So you have the ability to do literally whatever you'd like to do with OpenGL. It's a very, very powerful program. Another one is example 14.4, and I've been asked about being able to load graphics at runtime. So this is an example on how to do that. So you can literally open up, this is just a cube texture, so there's a texture file, which is an object. Then there's the MTL, so that's a material object. And then what do you want to code it with? So in this one I'm going to use a PNG picture, and I'm going to have a cube, and it's created it at runtime. So that's pretty good too. The next one is example 15.2. So sometimes when I'm getting into complicated models or large areas, it gets tough for me to figure out exactly where I need to position the camera, because the camera is where you physically view everything. So when I start OpenGL, here I can change my field of view, the aspect ratio. So let's say we want to change the field of view to make it smaller. So we're literally backing away from the camera. On here, an aspect, so this is the aspect ratio of the height to the width, and you can change that, and you can see how the model is actually changing in real time. Again, similarly, you can make it so that here there's it's called GLU look at. It's fantastic. And you can change what it actually looks like. So by changing it to a 1, you can see that the model has actually shifted more in one direction. Anyway, the good news is you can play with this in real time if you're having a difficult time trying to position your model within OpenGL. So the program's already made for you. It's literally all the source code is there, and you can play with it as you like. Example 15.4. This one is getting to do with Skybox. Skybox is a nice way of saying it's a picture around your entire world. So let's start it. So on here I have it so that I can go through a mouse, or I can use the keyboard, and move around the mouse. But you notice in the background, there's a picture and it's got mountains and sky on it. But then here in the middle part, I have cubes that are going off into an area. So you can have your drawing in the middle of this, and then you have your skybox, which is surrounded by the whole area. So let's say you want to make it look like your character is walking along a long grass path. Well, you want to be able to see something in the background, which is a skybox. The nice thing is the skybox is fast, it's refreshing very, very quickly. It looks smooth. There's no hiccups. It's the way that it should be done. Another one is example 20.1. This one is a what I call Xojo Blocks. So this is literally just a game where you can move the blocks over, you can move the block around, and if I was good enough, and you don't want to watch me playing a game, you can, if you line up and you end up having a making a row, it'll increase the number of lines and it'll also increase your score. So depending on how good you are, it'll show you everything again in real time. So this is just the first level, but you can see how you can have really nice graphics. It updates you in real time, tell you that the game is over, and you can quit the game. But again, showing you that you can set up a pretty complicated, it's just something as simple as Tetris, but you can make it look really, really good. And the last demo is 22.5. And this one is to show, let's say you're spending a lot of time with your canvas, but the canvas is being jerky, everything isn't as smooth moving as you'd like. Well, this is what this does. This is there's a callback for the keyboard and a callback for the mouse. So on here, you can literally select, hold down the mouse, grab an object, and you can move it around the screen, and you can move it fast, and the movement is extremely smooth. It looks great. There's no jerkiness, no hesitation. It's doing what it's supposed to do, and it looks fantastic. So, I mean, by all means, if you're new to graphics, please start off on a canvas. Once you graduate to that, and you're really comfortable with drawing stuff on a canvas, you'll probably want to move to OpenGL. My hope is to finish up with OpenGL. So right now I've just finished writing OpenGL. This is version 2.1, so OpenGL 2.1. I'd like to get to OpenGL 3.3, and then eventually to 4.6, and then to Vulkan. Of course, I probably will go to D3D, so I'll probably end up doing a Windows version. But the good news is this is very, very powerful, lots of great stuff. If you want to have good, smooth, fast graphics that use the graphics card and what it's intended for, OpenGL is definitely where you want to go. So I hope this was a good teaser, a good video for you to learn a little bit of the many things that this can do. And if you're into graphics, I wish you the best on your journey. All the best.